So he's one of the people who I followed, who I looked up to, and I've been very privileged to have phone conversations and met him at the SEA Awards. So one time with Mr. Charlie Braxton. Okay, now.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right, so I gotta ask, what's it like growing up in Mississippi, and after you grew up, what did your travels lead you?
Well, as far as what it's like, well, for me, what it was like growing up in Mississippi, of course, I had a beautiful childhood, had a, as good as any of a adolescence, because, of course, I'm one of those who started working early. So some of those things that a lot of teenagers enjoyed and did, I didn't have that. It's all about making sure that you got the A's and B's and, whatever extracurricular activities you had, you do those, and then, yes, off to work or, into some other program. So, Mississippi for me was, not only pleasurable growing up, but it was also fulfilling. That was my nurturing point. I really believe that had it not been for not only the environment in which I was raised, but also the families that I was fortunate to be a part of, that naturally I wouldn't have had quite the experience I had, to where literally when people hear I'm from Mississippi and they're like, oh, Mississippi's burning, I'm like, oh, everywhere that I've been at least is burning. I've even gone to Mexico and noticed differences. But, it wasn't actually until I went outside of Mississippi that I first experienced what was life-threatening racism. But yeah, fortunately, growing up as a kid in Hazelhurst, because of who my maternal grandmother was, we didn't have to worry about typical racist things that people would think, it was the other way around. White people weren't even safe turning around in my grandmother's driveway. So it was very different, people knew to not mess with any of Willie Mae's family or to, not be caught in her yard. A lot of stories with that. So my Mississippi experience was wonderful and great. It was just outside of Mississippi where, white people tried to run me off the road, or, a news manager made me wait 3 hours for a job interview, things like that.
Wow, that's crazy. Actually, answer the question I was going to ask. I was going to ask the question because, unfortunately, when people think Mississippi, one of the first things they think is Mississippi burning. And for whatever reason, Mississippi is at the forefront. If someone mentions a racist state, I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 will say Mississippi weather. But I've met so many people who actually say they didn't experience, some of the things that have mysteriously been, put with Mississippi. Right.
It's just like anywhere in the United States, well, not necessarily. I said like anywhere, but no. I've been places where, like for instance, even in Texas, I remember it was a black man who actually told me that for this particular job that I needed to go and perm my hair in order to do it, and that when I, let him know, no, I don't need to perm my hair, for this job. And when he said it, I had actually just completed a little modeling assignment that weekend. So, I knew, no, there's nothing wrong with my hair. I just got paid for my hair looking like this, and so, at any rate, he then recommended that I go and get a weave or start wearing wigs. And it was so funny because the lady he recommended that I talked to help me be able to blend better into corporate America was someone who was working with me on a project for a client of mine. And so when he mentioned her and where she lived, I was like, I already know her, And so it was so funny because, I was actually going to meet her for lunch. So, I've experienced some of all kinds of things, racist-wise. But, in Mississippi, Mississippi was good for me. That's where, I was able to, get my first job in news media. Well, my first everything, being that, of course, I grew up there. As a kid in high school, I was even one of the congressional scholars for youth legislature. A lot of different experiences and a lot of different chances to where, if people are going to do something, they would have had opportunity, because a lot of times I was one of only a handful of black people around, or even in cases where I had to cover things like dealing with Elvis Presley. A lot of times I was the only black person that was at his little birth home or whatever. So, I just thank God for always being protected no matter what and no matter where.
All right. Being a graduate from Jackson State, and after you graduated from Jackson State University of Texas, where did your travels lead you? Because I'm looking at your bio, but I want you in your own words to talk about some of the things you've done, from being a public speaker to even a wedding officiant.
Yeah, as far as traveling, I've traveled somewhat everywhere except for, I would say, things on the easternmost side of the globe. Let's see, and of course, as far as the work that I've done, yes, you're right. It has included some of everything, including performing weddings. I've done weddings for people here in Chicago. Most have been in Chicago proper itself, but there was one that I did in one of the suburbs. And of course, those were all performed this year. And of course, outside of that, since 2003, I started my first business in 1997 when relocating to Dallas-Fort Worth. And then, of course, in that business it was actually two. I started the Writers Consortium and the Conglomerate. And, of course, other businesses came over the years. And in 2003 was when I started republished.org. And, of course, with all the businesses, they were mainly to help fill needs that I initially had, and also things that I figured I could help other people with, not only getting achieved, but getting achieved with paying the least amount of money and getting the highest quality humanly possible in return. And so with bepublished.org, I not only assisted people from my Dallas location, I continue to do it here while I'm in Chicago, and assist them with publishing everything from books to CDs to movies. But of course, most people have books ready, or, it's easier for them to produce those quicker than to go in and, record those tracks for a CD, or to go in and, cast and film a movie. And so, but I have assisted with a couple of CD projects and a movie project this year. And of course, assisted a good, I would say, good handful of authors who live throughout the U.S. with books, publishing their books this year. And I also released 5 books of my own this year, the most I've ever produced in a single year and released on my own. Prior to 2017, I think the most I did in a single year was maybe 3 books. So yeah, this was a real busy year.
All right, 5 books in 1 year. Man, please tell me how strenuous that was, and what has been the rewards of that? Like, how has those books been received?
Well, as far as the reward and the reception, most people, my audience, they already know that every year you can count on me to produce something, and of course, and each thing is different, so you never quite know what it's going to be, even what size it's going to be. I try to make sure that each work, truly has a chance to be its own thing. So this year's works, there was one that I would say was pretty much the easiest, because it was one that I had been working on, had been going through and compiling photos, as well as, of course, writing out the recipes. I did a cookbook, Sweet Mary. And so, of course, I have been working on that, just a little few recipes, not a lot, fewer than 10, I want to say, but at any rate, of course, that one was one of the easier ones. But I would say, like, as far as the strenuous, for the most part, they really weren't. But the 2 that did pose a bit of a problem were actually the 2 that I thought would be the easiest. And they were the last 2 that I did. It was a dual series that I released called The Book of No Words. And, of course, there's Book of No Words, Volume 1, which is Book of No Words literally. And then there's Book of No Words, Volume 2, which is Book of No Words globally. And, of course, with the project, I thought that it would be easier since it was, Book of No Words. But, it was difficult choosing what to put on the page other than actual words, being that as you can tell, I'm loquacious, so, I'm so used to just words. So it was very, very challenging, and so, and surprisingly so. And so, and most people, again, they're usually shocked by what is this? And then when I saw it, it's like, oh, wow. And then, of course, with the second one, of course, the globally, that was a little easier. It's just determining, how much information I wanted to include in. But I just had to remember pretty much the whole thing is just letting them know how to say no in various languages. So just don't take the focus too much from the language. So, that I would say priority management, kind of helped out a lot.
All right, you also co-authored a book with your mother. What was that like?
Oh my gosh, years in the making. Because of course, my mother is, one of those people who, she's a big procrastinator when it comes down to creative things, mainly because she doesn't quite, have that, I would say that belief, and so she had wanted to do an autobiography, and she had started that some years ago, and then decided to stop that project, with the passing of her mother. And so a couple of years back, my siblings and I were like, just sitting around laughing and talking about some of the things that we remember Mama saying when we were growing up. And so that was when I was like, you know what, that can be her book. And that way she can still achieve her dream of becoming an author. And of course, it can be her words. It's just a matter of us compiling it. And yeah, it was very fulfilling, as well as, of course, exciting to see how she went from, just being blase, to being like, she actually got the book. This looks good. I remember saying that. She was like, I remember saying that. Some did I don't remember, some did I do. I told her, that was why it was critical for us to get it down, because we may forget as well, and so, a lot of different helpful advice that crosses a lot of different topics in life. And happy to be able to know that at least my mother has one thing that she figures she would never actually be able to get done. At least she has it done. And it didn't require her to step outside of her comfort zone whatsoever, because of course she's used to looking at something and critiquing it,
Right. Having 24 published books, which one has been your favorite piece of work, and which one has been your best received piece of work?
Oh, the best received piece of work is actually one I'm not sure I can say the title of here. I'll say it, and then you can always, if you edit it, oh no, this is live. The formal name of the external male genitalia is that single word is the best received book of mine. It's actually my only picture book, or, my coffee table book. And but even though, that's the one that, you don't have to market it or promote it. Every month it sells, even if it's the only one of my books that anyone has bought. It's going to be that one with that title. And then, as far as what my favorite one would be, I guess I would want to say scientific evidence God exists, but I think maybe in my heart, my favorite one is really Get Off Your Packages, because that's the one that I have to, that, and, that's the one I have to, remind people of more often than not, and so, I would say Get Off Your Packages would probably be my favorite, because, yes, having written that out, it makes it easy to remind people who have a million excuses, how no, it's really as simple as that.
All right. Being you do so many things, from author to being a publisher, a lecturer, and even being a vocalist, what is your favorite?
if I had to pick a favorite one of all of them, I guess that really it would be my business expression. And I know that a lot of people wouldn't really classify it with the arts, but of course, the arts and the sciences go hand in hand, and so of course, naturally, with business, you're able to amalgamate a lot of different things and be able to, make them work and function in one unit. And so, yeah, I would say that business aspect, because of course I can't see not being able to fully have access to any avenue of expression, because, they're each their own, and they each surprise me, even as long as, because these are all things that, I didn't think I would be making a living off of. I wouldn't want to limit either of their expressions. So I would say, the business would really be my favorite of all of my endeavors.
All right. What is your advice to people who either want to publish material, whether it's self-published, or want to start a publishing company? Because being an entrepreneur, I know one of the hardest things to do is gather support. So what would be your advice to someone who wants to get into publishing business?
And that's exactly it. Start from there. Go ahead and start by addressing what they already know is going to be their biggest uphill battle. And for me, of course, with knowing how not only is support meaningful from a moral standpoint, it also matters much when we look at, the whole financial side of it, because even if a person is going to seek to be able to be published the traditional route, which means that, they submit their manuscript around, send it with self-addressed stamped envelope, all of that stuff, that still costs money. So even whether you're trying to seek a publishing deal or whether you're trying to self-publish, you're still going to be spending that same $90 or $500 up front, depending on, how many you're reaching out to, things like that, the packaging, your product, all of that stuff. But at any rate, it really just, I would say to anyone, whatever it is that's your biggest no, go ahead and eliminate it. And if your biggest no really is a matter of, I don't think other people will support me,
60
then
seconds.
my question to people who say that is like, why do you need their support? If in truth what you say you're doing is you're expressing what's within you, or you're writing this as a message from God, or you're recording this music or this movie, because this is going to be your contribution to society. If you are really doing that for those reasons, then it shouldn't matter what anyone else thinks. All that matters is that in your eyes, it's the way it's supposed to be. Because, of course, what one person will hate, another person will love. What one person will buy immediately, another person literally would be willing to skip lunch in order to save up for it if they need to. There's, of course, you'll have some people who you think will support you and who say they will.
10 seconds.
Never buy a single thing. So I would recommend that people not base their willingness to take action upon any kind of praise or support that they may garner from outsiders, because the only one that really matters is you.
Agreed. All right, we're about to wrap the show up. So before we do, is there anything that we didn't touch on, or anything that you would love to tell the people?
Well, definitely, if you have already written a book or have already recorded tracks or have already filmed your movie, go ahead and look at putting it out. And don't worry about the whole aspect of, I don't want anybody to steal my stuff. You have to remember, doing that poor man's copyright is not going to protect you in court. To have something copywritten, it has to be accessible by 2 or more people simultaneously, and only publishing that via any of the means that you already know of is going to do that for you. So I would recommend publish it in a vein to where you'll be able to immediately have a high quality product, and you'll be able to make you some money off of it, an extra income stream. You can never have too much money. So all of it helps. So go to bepublished.org. Like, I want to be published to help you be published. Where can I be published? Bepublished.org. BEPUBLISHED.org. And of course, we can move forward from there. It has my phone number and everything on it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And is there any other social media you would like to give to the people before we leave?
Well, on Facebook, I, of course, have the page for Leroy Jefferson, bepublished.org. And, of course, I also have a Facebook profile for that Mylia Jaza. And you'll be able to find them both. Of course, bepublished.org, you know how that's spelled. And the Mylia Jaza, that's MYLIAJAZA. And you'll see it because you're going to see those other two names in there, too. So you can't miss it. You cannot miss it. And so, and outside of that, of course, everyone who contacts any of my companies, of course, you always get a free 15-minute strategy session on your first phone call. So definitely dial up 972-880-8316. That's 972-880-8316. And of course, get you a free 15-minute strategy session. And you can see, even if you don't have anything written down or recorded, call me. We can come up with a plan to where in 30 days you'll be finished with your first project.
Ms. Jaza, thank you so much. You have gave out some great information, especially the part about the poor man copyrights. I'm glad you said that because I have a lot of artists who check this show out and they needed to know that. Much success to you and everything.
Thank you.
And everything you got going on. Thanks for being the guest.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, and thank you all for listening. Enjoy tonight.
All right, have a nice night. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that was Miss Mylia Jaza. Y'all definitely check her out. If you out there and you want to get something published, look up her company, bepublished.org, and get more information. Now, we're about to get up out of here, but before we do, man, I got to give y'all the good news, give y'all the good word. This is my man, One Purpose Mind, and we're going to end the show like we always do right about this time with Riding with Purpose. My man, One Purpose Mind. Y'all have a great night.
I can weather the storm. 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 I can weather the storm.
Yo, you're now tuned into another edition of Riding with Purpose. My boy Vic XL, J-Ab on the track. Let's talk about embracing the storm. Y'all got the keys. It's time to lock in. Let that track ride real quick, JS. We'll send this on the radio. Yeah. Embracing the storm. Most of us have things going on in life. And some things come and they shock us. They come by surprise. Sometimes we see it miles ahead. We're talking about the storm, the challenges, the difficulties, the things that come to knock us off course, to knock us off track. What do you do when the storm happens?
I can weather the storm.
What do you do when you see the storm right in front of you? How do you navigate through the storm? First thing you need to do is embrace the storm. Acknowledge that the storm is there. I think sometimes as people, we want to act like there's not a storm going on in our life. We try to look past it. We try to become numb to it. But first you have to acknowledge the storm. Just go ahead and fess up and say, yep, this is going on right now. Yep, I'm experiencing some turbulence in my life right now. State the facts. Once you acknowledge that the storm is there, figure out how I'm going to get through this storm.
I can weather the storm.
How will I weather this storm going on in my life right now? I suggest that you find somebody that has been through that same storm. Not somebody that's going through it currently, but somebody that has weathered that storm, that thing that's going on. It might be a financial storm. It might be a relationship storm. It might be a work storm. Find somebody that has been successful at going through that storm. They can kind of give you a roadmap, a guideline, a
Embrace the storm.
the things they did
Acknowledge the storm.
to weather that storm.
Weather the storm. Find
See
somebody going
yourself
through the storm,
out
man.
of the storm.
Find somebody
You
who's
gotta
been
see
through it.
yourself. Acknowledge
Not
that it's
going
there.
through it. It's
See
been through
yourself
it. It
out
can
of
give
the
you good,
storm.
strong sound
What I mean by
advice.
see yourself? Even though you're in the midst of the storm right now, see yourself coming out of the storm.
Come
Use
out
your
of that dry
imagination.
clean, baby.
Close your eyes and envision yourself coming out of the situation that you're currently in right now. See it. Visualize it. Say that you're out of the storm. Say, I see myself coming out of debt. I see myself coming out of this bad relationship. I see myself being successful. I see myself with a big house. I see myself being healthy. I see myself losing 20 or 30 pounds. Whatever that storm is right now, see yourself coming out. That's the ask them what it was. What did you do? How did you do it? When were you in that storm? How did you fight through? Who did you talk to? And watch yourself come out of the storm. That's it. That's how you weather the storm. Acknowledge that it's there. Find someone that's been through that storm before and ask them, how did you get through? And watch yourself. Watch the victory. Watch the W. You will win. You will survive. Let's weather this storm and come out victorious. Can you weather the storm? Can you weather the storm?